Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today is Booklist Thursday. This is a video series I do with my friend Lindsay over at Lindsay's Little Library. And every Thursday we bring you some sort of list or book topic that we feel like talking about for the week. And this week we are doing our follow-up for our 5-star predictions that we did with Jen from Pages and Chaos. So Lindsay, Jen, and I picked a buzzword, and we picked 3 books that somehow involved that buzzword in some way, shape, or form that we thought would be 5 stars, and we read them. And now we are going to give you our thoughts. Okay, I'm going to start out by saying I read all 3 of these kind of right in a row in September. I was really trying to make sure I read them early because I knew that October was going to be a heavy travel month for me, and I wanted to kind of have this taken care of before I was traveling and started running out of time. So I read them kind of back to back in the month of September. And I will say that last round was not that great, but this round more than made up for it. Okay, we are just going to start at the top here. So Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. This is the first book in the Ruinous Love trilogy. 2 books are out. Book number 3 is being released, I think in February of next year. Now, the word fall comes into play here because our 2 main characters in this book fall in love. So that's how I kind of worked that in. Guys, this book was so good. It was so good. I thoroughly enjoyed reading this. Okay, and this is a weird one because it is a serial killer book, but our 2 main characters in this book are the serial killers. They are famous serial killers. Like, they've been on the news and nobody knows who they are and blah, blah, blah. They just have like stage names or whatever. And you see them meet and they end up entering into a competition where they meet up every year, and they have the same victim that they are hunting, and it's a competition to see who can get to them first. You guys, this book is so good. It's so good. Now, I loved the characters in here. I loved the characters. This book is gruesome. Gruesome. So you have to be able to be okay with that to read this. We're talking very, very, very detailed things that are happening to these people's bodies. It's also really funny. The banter between these 2 is fantastic. So it's almost like a rom-com in that way. And then it's a romance, but it's a slow burn. Like, it takes a while for these 2 to actually get together. You know it's coming, but it takes a while for them to get there. So this is not like they're sleeping together after the first night they meet. That's not what's happening here. But when they do get together, get ready for the spice. It is on fire. Like, you are not just in the room with them. You're a participant. You get very detailed things that are happening and things that are being said. So you have to kind of like that kind of stuff to enjoy this book. And I loved it. Loved it. I will say, as far as the writing goes, there were a couple of like descriptive phrases that were used multiple times, which that can kind of irk me a little bit sometimes. I'm like, I've already read that phrase, or I've read it multiple times. Let's move on to something else. So there was a little bit of that in here. Not enough to affect my rating, but yeah, this was total 5 stars. I loved this, and I'm very excited to read book 2. Okay, next one I'll talk about is Worst Case Scenario by TJ Newman. This is one that I listened to on audio. I had the audio version of it. It's narrated by Joe Norton, who did a great job. This one is another book about a plane crash, but I will say majority of this book is the aftermath of it and not the actual plane going down. The plane going down does happen in the very beginning. Obviously, that needs to happen in order to get the story going. But most of this book is what happened on the ground after the plane has crashed. So that's where the focus is and where the characters are and all that stuff. So that's a little bit different than her first 2 books that were all taking place on the planes. This one's on the ground after a crash. Now, this is a plane that goes down over a small town that has a nuclear power plant, and that's where the plane goes. Because, of course, that's where the plane's going to go, right? It crashes into a nuclear power plant, and then you're following the people in the town and the people who work at the plant and scientists and stuff trying to prevent basically a nuclear explosion happening on U.S. soil, because that could very well happen when a plane crashes into things. So that's what the story is. It was phenomenal. I liked that she took a different approach to a plane crash story, and it's not just, set on a plane again and, or you're going through the whole thing on the plane. I like that it was set on the ground afterwards and what the aftermath was. I thought that was a great twist to her writing style and proved that she can do that. And the science in here was fantastic. It kind of went over my head a tiny bit, to be honest with you, like, chemicals and all that. Well, I don't understand any of that. But I really enjoyed it. It was very fast paced, like all her books are. They're not very long books, but there's a lot jammed in. And I loved the characters as well. And then the author's note at the back was fantastic. I'm one who reads author's notes all the time, because a lot of times it'll kind of give you insight into where this idea came from. And the one in here was great. So this is another 5-star book for her. I have 5-starred all of her books so far that she has written. So this was an author to 0 for me, which I'm very happy about. It was fantastic. And the way that the word fall is in here is a plane falls from the sky and crashes onto the ground. Okay. This one, you guys. This book is hard. I have a hard time talking about these types of books because I feel like I don't have the adequate words. Okay, we're going to talk about Rise and Fall, the story of 9/11 by Mitchell Zuckoff. The word fall is in the title, and the towers on this day fell. So this is the story of 9/11, what happened on that day. It really highlights the hijackers and the people involved in doing this. So I learned a lot about them and kind of their happenings, or what, like the timelines of what happened that day. Learned a lot about that. Heard from a lot of people that I had never heard of or heard from before as far as 9/11 stuff goes. And I've read some books, I've watched documentaries and stuff. And every single time I watch something or read something, I learn something new. And this was no exception. Guys, when I say I tabbed this book, look at this. Like, I could not stop tabbing. It was just like things I was learning, things that were breaking my heart, which is like everything. People that I had already heard of or already heard their stories, or, knew who they were because of documentaries and stuff. I was tabbing those people as well. Just, oh man. Also a lot in here about communication on that day and how that was a factor. Was there possibly a 5th plane that was planned? That was in here. Never heard about that ever. That was interesting. And just, oh gosh, you guys. Yeah. So I tandem read this. I listened and read along at the same time. And it was so good. It was phenomenal. Really, 5 stars. Like, I have a hard time articulating what it is about these books that, it's hard to say I enjoyed it, because obviously I wish this book had never been written, because I wish that this day had never happened. But since we can't change that, learning about it and knowing what to do moving forward is always important. And, even 23 years later, it's still important. This was phenomenal. If you read books about 9/11 and you don't have this one, please add this to your collection. It's phenomenal. Okay, so we went from 2 DNFs last round to 5 stars for everybody in this round. All 3 of those were 5 stars. I'm so happy. Oh, I'm so happy. That was probably the best round I've had in a very long time. So good stuff. All right. So make sure you go check out Lindsey and Jennifer today. I will have both of their channels linked down below. See how they did on their rounds. I'm excited to see that because we haven't really talked about it. And Jennifer actually also read a 9/11 book. Not the same one, but she read a 9/11 book as well. So to see what her thoughts are on that, especially as she lives in New York. And yeah. All right. Let me know your thoughts down below, and we will see you guys again soon. Hope you have a great day.